The door wasn't locked. It never was. That's why when Robert pushed it open, what he saw didn't just steal the air from his lungs. It ripped it out like a punch to the chest. His daughter, Nia, 19 years old, was naked. She wasn't alone. Hovering over her, sweat glistening off his bare back like a serpent under a spotlight, was Bishop Elijah Hart, the same man who had baptized her when she was 7, the same man who had eaten dinner at their table just the week before, preaching about purity and sin. Robert didn't say a word. He couldn't. He just stood there, frozen. The bishop didn't stop. He didn't even notice until Nia screamed. Then, the screaming didn't stop. The next 23 minutes became a blur. Broken glass, wild fists, blood splashing across the bed sheets. When it was over, the bishop's body lay crumpled and broken in the backyard. His skull cracked open like a dropped melon. Nia was still screaming, holding on to her dad's blood-soaked shirt, her eyes wild, as if she didn't know whether to run or to disappear inside herself. The police photos would later show the bishop's hand still clutched around a strand of Nia's hair. But what made the case infamous wasn't just the murder. It was what happened right before and right after. But let's go back to the beginning, back before the blood, back before the betrayal. Back when the Hart family and the Caldwells thought they were all one happy church family. Back when the devil was still wearing a collar and a warm smile. It all started 5 months earlier, on a rainy Sunday morning in late February. The small town of Crest Hill, Georgia, had just survived a rough winter. Most people still had salt crusted on their car tires and old snow piled against the church steps. But inside the new vine sanctuary, the fire was warm, the choir was loud, and Bishop Elijah Hart was preaching one of his strongest sermons yet. He stood tall at the pulpit, slim, dark-skinned, charismatic. His voice had a rhythm to it, like thunder and jazz rolled into one. "We are not our sins," he declared, shaking the microphone. "We are the children of redemption." The congregation shouted back in waves. "Amen, amen." Nia Caldwell sat in the third pew, clapping along with the others, but her eyes didn't leave the bishop. Not once. She was back home after her first semester at college, thinner than before, her curls dyed caramel at the ends. Her eyes had a distance in them that made her mother nervous. Robert Caldwell, her father, sat beside her, nodding in rhythm. He was a construction foreman, tough and quiet, but deeply proud of 2 things: his daughter's brains and his loyalty to the church. Bishop Hart had become a mentor to him, like an older brother guiding him through rough seasons. They hunted together, prayed together, drank whiskey behind the barn when no one else was watching. Robert, the bishop had once said, "You're not just a friend, you're my blood in the spirit." So when Elijah Hart asked to start weekly Bible studies with Nia, just to help her stay spiritually rooted while away at college, Robert didn't hesitate. "Keep her sharp," he said. "She's been reading those liberal books." At first, everything seemed normal, harmless. Nia even seemed happier, more focused, less distant. They met at the church on Wednesdays, just her and the bishop. She said they prayed, talked scripture, and drank lemon tea. Her mother, Janice, had some questions, though. "She's 19, Elijah," she told him one Sunday in private. "She's a young woman now. It's not appropriate to be alone with her so often." Bishop Hart had smiled. "Sister Janice, the devil is working overtime, but not in this church. You have my word. I see Nia as a daughter." The problem was Nia didn't see him as a father. By April, something shifted. Nia stopped going to church events. She stayed in her room more. Her laughter disappeared. One evening, Robert found her crying in the backyard. When he asked why, she said it was just school stress. But her laptop showed no grades, no assignments, just long, unsent emails in her drafts folder, all addressed to Bishop Elijah Hart. One of them read, "You said it would just be one time. Why do I feel like I'm drowning now?" But Robert never saw that email. Not yet. One night, 2 weeks before the murder, Robert came home early from work. He walked past the kitchen and heard soft giggles. Voices. Nia's voice. And Elijah's. He peeked through the hallway and saw them sitting close on the couch, his hand grazing her thigh. Nia jumped up when she saw her father. Elijah played it off, said they were discussing a youth retreat. That night, Robert didn't sleep. His wife asked what was wrong. He said, "Something in my house ain't right." And that's when the dreams started. He dreamed of fire, of blood in the baptismal pool, of Nia's voice calling out his name, but he couldn't move, couldn't save her. He started digging. Check her phone. Her messages were clean, but too clean, as if she had deleted everything. He installed a hidden camera in the living room. And on May 12th, just 5 days before the murder, he caught footage of the bishop brushing Nia's hair. It seemed innocent, almost tender, but the look on her face wasn't one of comfort. It was haunted. He confronted Nia the next day. She broke down, but wouldn't tell him what happened. "I'm fine, Daddy. Please stop digging." But he didn't. He couldn't. The final straw came on the night of May 17th. Robert got home from a late shift, exhausted, clothes drenched in drywall dust. His house was silent. Too silent. Then he heard a creak upstairs. He followed the sound. Up the stairs. Down the hall. His daughter's door closed, but not locked. He pushed it open, and time broke. There was the bishop, sweating and naked. There was his daughter, gasping, eyes full of shame and fear. There was Robert, standing there, fists trembling, head pounding, eyes filling with tears and rage. What followed was chaos. Elijah tried to explain. Nia screamed. Robert lunged. They tumbled down the stairs, fists flying, cursing, glass shattering. The bishop reached for a fireplace poker. Robert got to it first, and in 3 savage swings, he split open the bishop's skull. Silence. Then came the blood. Then came the wail of his daughter. But just as Robert reached for the phone to call the police, he heard something outside. Tires on gravel. Someone else had arrived. Another witness. Another secret. And another danger. The headlights blinked through the living room curtains. Then the engine cut off. Robert froze. His chest heaved. His hands were soaked in the bishop's blood. Nia sat on the bottom step, still shaking, her legs tucked in her chest, whispering, "Daddy, what did you do? What did you do?" He moved to the front window and peeked through the blinds. A car door shut, then another. 2 shadows walked up the gravel path toward the porch. Robert's heart nearly stopped when he recognized one of them. Deacon Silas Green, the bishop's right-hand man at New Vine Sanctuary. The other was unfamiliar, a woman, short and round, holding a stack of papers under one arm. Robert's first instinct was to run. But where? The house looked like a war zone. The poker was still on the floor, bent slightly from the impact. Blood dripped slowly from the bishop's open head wound, pooling near the television cords. His robe, Elijah's white bishop robe, was half draped across the recliner, as if it had been flung in a hurry. Bang, bang, bang. Someone knocked hard. "Bishop," came Silas's voice. "You in there? Your car's out front." Nia whimpered, "Daddy, please. Please say something." Robert's mind raced. Why was Silas here? Why tonight? He opened the door, just enough to peek his head out, try to stay calm. "Hey, Deacon," he said, forcing a cough. "What brings you out this late?" Silas frowned. "Is the bishop here?" He was supposed to give Sister Marla these annulment forms. She drove in from Savannah. Robert hesitated. "Nah, I haven't seen him. Maybe he stepped out. His car's here. Maybe he's out back." "On the phone," Robert mumbled. Sister Marla stepped closer. "Can we come in? I drove 4 hours for this." "No," Robert snapped. I got the flu. Don't want to pass it." Silas looked over his shoulder toward the driveway, suspicious. Then something horrible happened. A single drop of blood fell from Robert's shirt collar and splashed onto the porch step. Small, quiet, but Sister Marla noticed. She stared at it. Then her eyes lifted slowly to Robert's face. His eyes, his trembling lip. She knew. Robert slammed the door shut and locked it. "Gio," he shouted at Nia. "Upstairs. Now." She stumbled, still dazed, and vanished down the hallway. Outside, Silas began banging on the door. "Robert, what's going on? Open this damn door." Sister Marla screamed. "Call the police." Robert raced to the back door, unlocked it, ran into the yard. His mind was pure fire now, no thoughts, just instincts. Survival. He grabbed the bishop's corpse by the arms and started dragging it toward the shed behind the chicken coop. The body was heavy, slippery. He slipped once, hit his knee, gritted his teeth. Inside the house, he heard glass break. Silas was breaking in. No time. He dumped the body behind the woodpile beside the shed and yanked a tarp over it. Inside the house, Silas was shouting, "Robert, what is this?" Robert sprinted back to the porch and slammed the back door shut, locking it just in time. Silas was in the living room now, looking around in shock. "What the hell happened in here?" he yelled, stepping over the shattered coffee table. "Where's Elijah?" "I don't know," Robert shouted back, voice shaking. "I don't know, Silas. He came in, and then he left." Silas was staring at the blood trail, the bent poker, the bishop's robe. Then, from upstairs, "Daddy," Nia's voice. Silas turned toward the sound. Robert grabbed the poker again and lifted it slightly. They locked eyes. Silas slowly raised both hands. "Robert," he said calmly, "what did you do?" Before Robert could answer, there was a knock, this time at the back door. Not banging, not shouting, a soft, gentle knock. 3 times. Robert and Silas both turned. Then the knocking came again. 3 soft knocks, followed by silence. Sister Marla had never gone around back. "Who the hell was it?" Silas whispered. "That ain't the police." Robert moved toward the back window and looked through a sliver of the curtain. There was a man standing outside. Unfamiliar. Pale face. Wide smile. Not blinking. He was holding something. A phone. A camera? Robert leaned in closer to see. Flash. A blinding white light burst through the window as the man snapped a picture of Robert's face. Then the man turned and ran into the woods behind the house. "Hey!" Robert yelled. He yanked open the back door and gave chase, ignoring Silas's shouts. The man ran fast, ducking through trees barefoot. He didn't say a word, just laughed. A weird, low chuckle that floated through the darkness. Robert followed him until the trees swallowed the moonlight and the brush became too thick. He stopped, panting, heart pounding. The man was gone, but something was left behind, on the grass. A small object. Robert bent down and picked it up. A voice recorder. He pressed play. It crackled. Then a voice, his voice. From earlier. Screaming. Swinging the poker. Then Nia's voice, crying, "Don't hurt him, Daddy. Please." The recording cut off. He dropped it. Shaking. Someone had been watching. Recording. Maybe for days. Back at the house, red and blue lights flashed through the trees. The police had arrived, and Robert Caldwell had just run out of time. Robert didn't move. He stood in the dark woods, barely breathing, the red and blue lights flashing in rhythm through the leaves above him. Sirens wailed faintly from the front yard, and voices barked orders. He knew what came next. Footsteps, guns, handcuffs. His hands were still streaked with blood. Elijah Hart's blood, but something deeper chilled him more than the thought of being arrested. Someone else had been there, watching, filming, smiling. And whoever they were, they had run off into the night with evidence that could destroy his daughter and himself forever. He gritted his teeth and turned back toward the house, careful to keep out of the flashlight beams slicing through the backyard. As he crept toward the shed, he could hear police radio chatter. Male suspect may still be in the vicinity. Officer down there by the back gate. Secure it. Copy that. Checking shed. Robert ducked behind the coop. His chest tightened as one of the officers, a tall white man with a shotgun, walked straight toward the woodpile. The body. The bishop's body was under there. Robert almost whispered a prayer, but stopped himself. Too late for that now. The cop passed within 5 feet of it. Paused. Robert tensed, ready to lunge, to scream, to... "Back here's clear," the cop called. "Just some logs and old farm junk." And then he walked away. Robert exhaled, sweat dripping into his eyes. Somehow they missed it. He slipped around the side of the shed and darted back toward the house through the shadows, re-entering through the busted kitchen door. Inside, everything was chaos. 2 officers had their guns drawn. Silas was face down on the floor, handcuffed, shouting, I told you, he went out back." Nia stood near the staircase, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked small, her nightgown still half slipped off her shoulder. Her eyes red, swollen. She met her father's eyes the moment he stepped in, then did something he didn't expect. She screamed, "There he is! That's him! Robert froze. The two cops turned like wolves. "Hands where I can see them," one yelled. "Now!" Robert raised his hands slowly, barely breathing. They rushed him, shoved him to the wall, forced his arms behind him, and slammed cold cuffs onto his wrists. One officer read him his rights while the other patted him down. Blood still fresh on his sleeves. Silas shouted from the floor, "What did you do, man? Where's Bishop Hart?" Robert didn't answer. He looked at Nia again. She was still crying, but she gave a small shake of her head. "I had to," her eyes seemed to say. "I had to act like I didn't know." Robert nodded once. He understood. She was trying to buy time. Keep suspicion off her. Maybe protect herself. It was smart. Painful, but smart. Then the female officer noticed something. "Sir," she said, turning to her partner. "He's bleeding." Robert looked down. There, in the middle of his palm, was a fresh cut, deep and jagged, from dragging the bishop's body across the gravel. He hadn't even noticed. "Get him in the cruiser," the other officer barked. "We'll sort it at the station." As they dragged him out, he heard one last thing from behind. Silas, now sitting up, looking at the blood on the floor and whispering, "This is evil. This is all evil." At the police station, the questions came fast. Where was the bishop? Why was there blood? Why was Robert's shirt soaked? Where had he gone for the past 20 minutes? He stayed silent. He asked for a lawyer. He refused to speak another word. They took his clothes, gave him a jumpsuit, and put him in a holding cell. That's when he finally let himself break. He sat down on the concrete bench, stared at his trembling hands, and cried. Quiet, dry sobs that twisted his face but made no sound. He wasn't crying for himself. He was crying for Nia, because no matter what happened now, she would live with this forever. And the worst part? Someone else knew. That man, the one with the voice recorder. Who was he? And why was he watching? The next morning, Robert was woken by a loud buzz and the sound of steel unlocking. A deputy appeared at the door. Caldwell. Visitor. Robert's lawyer? No. When he walked into the visitation room, he didn't see any lawyer. He saw her. Janice Caldwell, his wife. Nia's mother. Strong, straight-backed, hair in a tight bun, face lined with sleepless nights. She didn't speak at first. She just sat down and stared at him through the glass. Robert picked up the phone. "So, did she?" "You're all over the news," she said quietly. "They're saying you killed him." He didn't answer. "Is it true?" He looked down. "Tell me the truth, Robert. Right now. Don't you lie to me." He looked up, tears stinging again. "He was with our daughter." Janice didn't blink. "You saw it." He nodded. "Walked in on them." "I lost it." She closed her eyes. Then, after a long silence, she asked, "Did he hurt her?" "I don't know. She won't say. But I think it's been going on." Janice's lips trembled. Her voice cracked for the first time. "Oh my God." Robert pressed the phone hard to his ear. "But there's something worse. January, someone else was there. Watching us. Taped it. Took pictures. He's got a voice recorder with audio from that night." Janice's eyes widened. "Who? I don't know. But if he goes public, Nia's name is coming out. Everything." Janice said nothing for a while. Then she leaned close to the glass and said in a whisper, "I'll find him." Robert looked stunned. "You?" She nodded. "You protect her one way. I'll protect her another." He wasn't sure what that meant, but there was a fire in her eyes he hadn't seen in years. That night, back at the house, Nia couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the bishop's face, the scream, the sick wet sound of the poker landing again and again. She got out of bed around 2 a.m. and went to the kitchen for water. That's when she saw it. Something on the counter. A plain white envelope, with her name on it. Her hands trembled as she picked it up and opened it. Inside was a flash drive and a note. Handwritten. "You're not the only one he's touched, but now you're the only one alive. Watch this and decide what you want to do next. M." She dropped the envelope. Her breathing grew fast. Shallow. She looked out the window into the woods. There for just a second, she thought she saw movement. A silhouette. Watching. Waiting. Then it vanished. Nia didn't move for a long time. The flash drive in her hand felt heavier than it should. Her fingers trembled. Her mind buzzed. The note repeated itself in her head, word by word. "You're not the only one he's touched, but now you're the only one alive." She read it again and again. The kitchen lights flickered. The fridge motor hummed low behind her, like it too was holding its breath. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and every branch creak sounded like footsteps. She took the flash drive upstairs, locking her bedroom door behind her. Her laptop took forever to boot, or maybe just felt that way. Her palms were sweaty as she inserted the drive and opened the only file inside, untitled.mp4. She clicked. The screen flickered. Static. Then a dark room. A young girl sat on the edge of a church pew, maybe 16. The camera was shaky, like it was hidden. Someone whispered softly, breathing hard. Then, the bishop stepped into view. Calm, smiling. Nia clamped her hand over her mouth. He walked up behind the girl, whispered something in her ear, then reached forward. She slammed the laptop shut. Her stomach flipped. She ran to the bathroom and vomited. Her father had been right. Elijah Hart hadn't just sinned. He'd hunted, groomed, abused, and now he was dead. But whoever M was, he wanted more than justice. He wanted a game. Nia sat on the cold tile floor, knees pulled tight to her chest. The bathroom light buzzed above her. The silence pressed against her like a weight. Who was M? How long had he been watching? And how'd he get footage like that? She looked at the flash drive again. There was no brand, no markings, just plastic and evil. She knew one thing. This wasn't over. Not even close. Meanwhile, across town, Janice Caldwell was driving slowly through the back roads of Crest Hill. Her old Chevy made a clicking sound in the engine, but she ignored it. Her eyes stayed sharp on the woods beside the road, the ditches, the empty cabins. She had gone to the station after seeing Robert, talked her way into a private meeting with the lead detective, claiming she had evidence to help the case. But all she got were questions and stares. The news had already painted Robert as a killer, but Janice knew something they didn't. Her daughter hadn't cried like a victim. She had cried like someone with secrets. And if secrets existed, then so did the people who wanted them hidden. At a lonely diner on Route 4, Janice parked and went inside. The waitress didn't even greet her, just pointed her toward the back booth. A man was already sitting there. Short, thin, with sunken eyes and a long trench coat, even though it wasn't cold. "Your mother?" he asked. Janice nodded. He slid a phone across the table. "Watch this." She did. It was grainy footage of her husband, Robert, dragging a body across the yard. Then another clip, the man in the woods laughing, holding the recorder, filming Robert chasing him. Then silence. "I want to know where you got this," Janice said slowly. The man smiled. "You're asking the wrong question. What's the right one?" He leaned forward. "Why did I give it to you?" Janice didn't blink. "Why?" He leaned back. "Because I want the same thing you do. To bury the truth before someone else digs it up." Janice frowned. "What's your name?" He laughed. "You can call me M." Janice's heart sank. This was the man who left the flash drive. What are you playing at?" He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her an envelope. Inside were 3 photos. One was of Nia. One was of a different girl. Young, scared, same church robe. The third was of the bishop, standing next to a police officer, smiling. "Your husband killed a monster," M said. "But that monster had friends, and one of them is in the police department. You're being watched. You all are." Janice looked up sharply. "I can protect you," M continued, "but not for free." "What do you want?" His smile widened. "I want Nia. I want her to speak." "No." He raised a brow. "She's been through enough," Janice growled. "You stay away from her." Then the video goes online. Tonight, Janice's breath caught. He slid her another flash drive. This one has more. Girls you don't know. Faces you've never seen. All Crest Hill. All victims. You think Elijah Hart acted alone? He had help. A network. And it's still alive. Janice stared at the drive like it was a loaded gun. "I'm not threatening you, Janice," M whispered. "I'm offering you justice. But I need her voice." She stood slowly. "I'll think about it." He nodded. "But if you come near her again without permission," she leaned in close, "I will bury you two." Then she left. Back at the house, Nia finally came out of the bathroom, weak and pale. She called her mother, but Janice didn't answer. She sat on her bed and stared at her laptop. She knew what she had to do. She reopened the video. She watched it to the end. And after she did, she clicked record on her phone. The screen lit up, and her face appeared. "My name is Nia Caldwell," she said, voice shaky. And this is what Bishop Elijah Hart did to me. But she didn't get to finish, because outside her bedroom window, she saw him again. The same man, the same pale face, standing in the tree line, watching her, not moving, just smiling. And this time, he was holding something new, a phone, with her face on the screen. She dropped the phone, ran to the window, but he was gone. Again, she grabbed the flash drive, the video, and her phone and stuffed them into her backpack. She ran downstairs just as headlights hit the driveway. It wasn't her mom. It was a black SUV, tinted windows, no plates, and someone was stepping out, a figure in a priest's robe. But it wasn't the bishop. It was someone else, someone with the same smile, the same collar, and the same hunger in his eyes. Nia didn't wait to find out who he was. She turned and ran through the back door, clutching her backpack like a life jacket in a storm. Her bare feet slapped the cold tile, then the porch steps, then the wet grass behind the house. Her breath came in short gasps. She didn't scream. She didn't look back. She just ran. Through the backyard, past the shed where her father had left the bishop's body, past the chicken coop, now quiet and eerie, into the woods beyond. The darkness swallowed her whole. Behind her, the SUV's engine clicked softly as it cooled. The back door creaked open. The man in the robe stepped out slowly, deliberately. His face wasn't familiar, but it felt similar. Same sharp jawline, same cruel smile. He moved like someone who'd done this before, like someone who enjoyed it. He turned to the house. The lights inside flickered. He stepped inside, and just like that, Nia Caldwell was gone, vanished into the trees, running for her life. She didn't know where she was going. Her phone had 8% battery. Her throat burned from breathing too fast, but her body kept moving, driven by something deeper than fear, rage. She had seen the video. She had seen herself, and she had seen others. Now she knew the truth. Bishop Hart hadn't been acting alone. There was a network, a circle, a system, and she was on a bird all down. Her legs ached as she reached the edge of the woods and stumbled onto a dirt road that ran behind the church. New Vine's sanctuary loomed in the distance, dark and silent. She slowed, gripping a tree for balance, sweat pouring down her back. Then a light snapped on from inside the church. The bell tower. She blinked, watching. A figure was moving up there. She knew that walk. It was him, the man from the flash drive. Not Bishop Hart, but the man who filmed it all. M. He was inside the church. She should have run the other way. Instead, she walked forward. Her feet crunched softly on the gravel path as she approached the side door. It was unlocked, the same door her father used to enter during early morning men's prayer. The church smelled like old wood, incense, and secrets. The sanctuary was empty, pews casting long shadows under the moonlight streaming through the stained glass windows. The silence pressed against her chest. Then she heard it, above her. Footsteps in the bell tower. She climbed the stairs. Each step creaked. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure he could hear it. When she reached the top, he was waiting. M, leaning against the bell's frame, smiling. I wondered how long it'd take you, he said. What do you want from me? Nia asked, her voice steady now. He studied her. You're braver than I thought. I'm not here to be tested. Or filmed. No, he said. Then why did you follow me? Because I want to know how many. He tilted his head. How many girls like me? She said, stepping closer. How many did he hurt? He reached into his coat and pulled out a small notebook. He handed it to her. Names, dates, ages, 23 of them. She swallowed hard. Why do you have this? Because I used to be one of them. Nia froze. What? He looked at her. His smile was gone now. Not like you, but my sister, Melissa, 14, choir soloist. He said she had a gift. Nia's stomach dropped. She hung herself the week after I found the tape. That was 2011, and that's when I started watching. He pointed to a corkboard behind him. Photos, maps, timelines, all connected to New Vine Sanctuary. I followed him for years, waiting, watching, and then you came home, from college. He looked her dead in the eye. I knew he'd go after you. I wanted to stop him. I almost did, but then your father did it for me. She was shaking now. M stepped forward, lowering his voice. But it's not just about him. Elijah Hart had help. A second bishop. One who still lives. One who's now hunting for you, Nia. Because you're the last piece. The only witness. The girl who can end it all. She looked down at the notebook again. At the names. And then she understood. I need to go public. No, Em said sharply. Not yet. Why not? Because you'll die before you ever get to speak. The circle, they're already moving. Tonight, 2 more girls went missing. Girls who used to sing in the choir. If you want to stop them, you'll have to finish what your father started. But you can't do it alone. She stared at him, then nodded. What do we do? Before he could answer, boom. The bell tower shook violently. A gunshot, then another. Nia ducked instinctively and pulled her behind the wooden frame. More gunshots echoed through the church walls. Someone was shooting from inside the sanctuary. They weren't alone. Em pulled a pistol from his jacket and handed her a second one from a bag by the stairs. You ever used one? She stared at the weapon, shook her head. Well, you're about to learn. More footsteps thundered below. Then came a voice, chilling, smooth, familiar. Nia, it sang through the darkness. Come out, sweetheart. We just want to talk. Nia's eyes widened. She knew that voice. Pastor Denny Rawls, Elijah Hart's best friend. And now he was here, armed, hunting her. Em whispered, we have to get to the basement. There's a tunnel that leads out to the old cemetery. Move fast. Don't stop. Nia gripped the gun tighter and pushed open the side hatch, and they began to climb down the emergency ladder away from the shots. Halfway down, a bullet tore through the wall beside her, sending splinters flying. She screamed. Em grabbed her hand. We're almost there. But before they could hit the bottom, a figure stepped out from behind the pulpit, gun raised. Nia turned and locked eyes with him. It wasn't Pastor Rawls. It was her uncle, her mother's brother, Deacon Tyrone. He smiled slowly. I told Janice this would come back to haunt us. Then he aimed the barrel at Nia's chest and pulled the trigger. Time slowed. The crack of the gunshot shattered the silence like a lightning bolt through glass. Nia's breath caught in her throat. She expected pain, fire in her chest, the feeling of her lungs collapsing. But it never came. Em lunged just in time, slamming into her from the side. They tumbled behind a pew as the bullet struck the wall above them, wood exploding into splinters. He groaned, blood soaked through his shirt. No, 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 Nia cried, pressing her hand to his side. You're hit. Just a graze, he hissed. I've had worse. Another shot rang out, and they ducked lower. Footsteps echoed. Deacon Tyrone was closing in, calm and steady. You shouldn't have come back, girl, Tyrone called out, his voice echoing off the stained glass and stone. Your daddy should have let this thing die with Elijah. Em reached up, grabbed her wrist. His eyes burned through the pain. Get to the tunnel, he whispered. Now. I'm not leaving you. You have to. You're the story now. You're the fire. A third shot whizzed past, ripping through the edge of the pew, just inches from Nia's face. She gritted her teeth, then grabbed him's gun and sprinted across the aisle, crouched low. Tyrone shouted, I see you. A shot clipped the backpack strap on her shoulder. She dove behind the altar, chest heaving, ears ringing. The trapdoor to the basement was beneath her. Old, rusted, but real. She yanked it open and dropped inside, just as another shot cracked against the altar above her. Darkness swallowed her. She hit the dirt floor hard and rolled to her knees. Em? She whispered up through the hole. No answer. Em? Another shot. Dust rained down. Then silence. Nia didn't wait. She grabbed a flashlight from her bag, clicked it on, and ran through the tunnel. It smelled like earth and mildew. Wooden support beams framed the tight passage. She kept moving deeper and deeper until she reached an iron door at the other end. It led up to the cemetery, just like Em had said. She pushed it open. The cold night air slammed into her like a wall. Graves stood in crooked rows before her, lit by the moon. She ran past them, weaving between stones, breath sharp in her lungs. Then headlights. Not far. A gravel road. She ducked behind a large tombstone and pulled out her phone. 5% battery. She called her mother. It rang once. Twice. Then, Janice Caldwell, came the voice. Mama, it's me. Nia? Baby, are you okay? No time, listen. Uncle Tyrone shot him. He's working with Rawls. There's a network, Mama. It's real. I know, baby. What? How? Because I followed him. I followed your uncle when he left the house. I'm looking at them right now. They're talking near the river. There's another man with them. Someone in a red clergy robe. Nia's blood ran cold. A third one. I don't know who he is, but they're planning something. I heard them say your name. They think you're heading to the press. I am. No, not yet, Janice whispered urgently. They've got people at every outlet. If you go to the police, they'll cover it up. We need proof they can't erase. I've got it. Video. Testimonies. Flash drive. The notebook. Janice's voice cracked. Then we do it on our terms. We leak it. Online. Anonymous. Let the whole world see it before they can shut us down. Nia nodded. Okay, meet me at the cabin. The one your daddy used to fish from? Yeah, I'll be there in 20. I love you, Nia. I love you too. She hung up, then ran. She didn't see the figure watching her from behind the mausoleum. Didn't hear the crunch of gravel as he stepped into the open. Didn't notice the red clergy robe trailing behind him. He raised a walkie-talkie to his lips. She's headed to the cabin. Alone. A voice crackled back. Make sure she stays that way. 30 minutes later, Nia arrived at the cabin, an old wooden shack on the edge of a still, black lake. Her dad had brought her here to fish when she was little. It was the one place left untouched by the church. No cameras, no eyes, no lies. She barricaded the door and lit a single oil lamp. Then she opened her laptop. She inserted the flash drive. She connected her phone hotspot. One file at a time, she began uploading everything, photos, videos, voice recordings, into a secure cloud link tied to a public whistleblower site. She titled the folder, The New Vine Cult. It was almost done. 98%, 99%. Boom. The front door splintered inward. Nia screamed, ducking behind the couch. 3 men poured inside. One wore a red robe. One was Pastor Rawls. The third was Detective Palmer, the lead investigator on her father's case. Nia's mouth dropped. You, she gasped. You're one of them. Palmer sneered. You think we didn't know what your father did? You think we didn't let him do it? He did us a favor. Elijah was slipping. He got sloppy. Pastor Rawls added, but your father drew too much heat. And you're about to set this whole thing on fire. He raised a pistol. The red-robed man took a step forward. And then, boom, a shotgun blast ripped through the front window, knocking Rawls off his feet. Blood sprayed across the wall. A second shot shattered the lamp. Janice Caldwell stepped through the smoke, shotgun leveled, eyes wild. Nobody touches my daughter. Chaos exploded. The red-robed man lunged. Nia dove for her laptop. Detective Palmer tackled Janice, trying to wrestle the shotgun away. In the madness, the file finished uploading. 100%. Nia clicked Post to Public. The screen blinked once. Then confirmed. Shared with 2.3 million subscribers. And just like that, the truth was out. But the cabin was still on fire. Rawls, bleeding from the neck, lunged for Nia one last time. She raised her gun. Fired. He dropped. Smoke filled the room. Janice screamed. Palmer ran out the back door. The red-robed man vanished into the trees. And Nia Caldwell stood in the center of the cabin, holding a smoking gun, watching the screen as news alerts flooded in. The truth was loose. But now, the hunt had truly begun. By morning, the world had changed. Phones buzzed. News anchors stumbled over their words. Headlines exploded across every screen. Church sex ring exposed. Whistleblower video surfaces from Crest Hill. Victims of Bishop Elijah Hart speak out. Is your church hiding a predator? The video had gone viral in under 4 hours. Clips of the bishop, the girls, the names, the secret notebook, the voice recordings. Everything was online now, impossible to erase. Social media boiled over. Hashtag #NewVineTruth was trending worldwide. But while the world gasped, shouted, and demanded justice, Nia Caldwell and her mother were running for their lives. The cabin was gone, burned to the ground before sunrise. Janice drove them deep into the mountains in Robert's old truck, sticking to back roads, avoiding cameras, gas stations, even streetlights. Nia sat silently in the passenger seat, staring out the window, one hand still tight around the flash drive, as if it might disappear if she let go. I should have seen it, Janice said finally, her voice low. All those years in that church, and I never saw any of it. You weren't supposed to, Nia whispered. They made sure you didn't. They pulled over in an abandoned motel parking lot just outside a ghost town called Mercer's Bluff. Janice killed the engine. We rest here, she said. 2 hours. Then we move. Nia nodded. She didn't sleep, not even for a second. Instead, she opened a glove box and found her father's old cassette recorder. She pressed record. My name is Nia Caldwell, she began, voice low and sure. This is my statement. In case we don't make it out. She told everything, from the first meeting with Bishop Hart, to the flash drive, to the network, to the men who chased them. She named every name she knew, and one she didn't. The man in the red robe. He's the last one, she whispered. The real leader. And he's still out there. And he was. Back in Crest Hill, the town was in chaos. The New Vine Sanctuary was under siege. FBI vans swarmed the parking lot. Detectives raided every room. Officers in body armor kicked open locked doors, pulled out boxes, flipped mattresses. But they were too late. The church had been emptied, cleared, sanitized. No evidence. No members. Only one thing remained inside the pulpit, a red robe, freshly ironed, laid across the bishop's throne like a warning. It was him. He had known this was coming, and he was already gone. Detective Palmer had vanished. Deacon Tyrone had vanished. Even M was missing. No calls, no texts, no trace. But someone else appeared in the headlines. A face no one had expected. Robert Caldwell. A new leak emerged. This one not from Nia, not from M. It was surveillance footage. Robert, covered in blood, dragging the bishop's body behind a shed. Audio included. Then a second leak. This one edited, twisted, with Robert shouting, "You deserve this, you bastard," as he swung the poker. The media flipped. Suddenly, Robert wasn't a father protecting his daughter. He was a murderer, and worse, a cover-up suspect. A statement from Crest Hill PD hit the press. Robert Caldwell is being reclassified as a prime suspect in a coordinated conspiracy to eliminate Bishop Elijah Hart and sabotage a church community. Anyone with knowledge of his whereabouts is asked to contact federal authorities immediately. Nia stared at her cracked phone screen as she read it aloud. They're turning him into a monster, she whispered. They're scared, Janice said. They can't stop the truth, so they're trying to change the story. Just then, Nia's phone buzzed. A blocked number. She answered. There was a pause. Then a familiar voice. M, meet me at the river mouth, he said. Midnight. Bring the drive. M, she gasped. You're alive. I've been in hiding. They're watching everything. Even the whistleblower site's been compromised. Did you see the videos? They're framing my dad. I know. That's why you need to come. Tonight. Who was the man in red? I'll show you. But you need to prepare yourself. What does that mean? He's not just another bishop, Nia. He's the founder. The one who trained Elijah Hart. The one who started the circle. And you've met him before. Nia's blood ran cold. What's his name? But the line went dead. That night, they drove in silence toward the river mouth, a hidden stretch of woods off the southern bend of Lake Waller. No lights, no homes, just pine trees, mud, and memories. Robert used to take them there for barbecues and fishing trips. Now it felt like walking into a trap. Nia and Janice stepped out of the truck, guns tucked in their coats. Fog rolled across the riverbank. Then movement. M stepped out of mist, limping. He looked thinner, paler, but alive. He nodded to Nia. You brought it. She handed him the drive. He plugged it into a tablet and tapped the screen. I got a signal cloaked, just long enough to broadcast the real story. The raw files, the rest of the names. But there's one thing I haven't shown you yet. He opened a folder, a new video. The footage showed Elijah Hart, kneeling, head bowed, in front of another man. His face was turned, but slowly he stood up, turned, and Nia gasped. It was her grandfather, her mother's father, Pastor Harold Mason, dead, or so they thought. Janice staggered backward. That's not possible, she breathed. He died in 2008. No, M said. He faked it. Changed his name. moved through churches. He's been running the ring since the 90s. Hart was his favorite student. Tyrone was his foot soldier. Janice dropped to her knees. Nia's heart pounded in her chest. The monster wasn't just in the pulpit. He had been in their family, and now he was coming for them. Just then, headlights flared through the trees. An SUV tore down the dirt road. Then another. 4 in total. Doors flew open. Men with rifles spilled out. Em grabbed Nia's hand. Run! Janice fired once, twice, striking the windshield of one vehicle. A bullet grazed her arm. She didn't stop. Nia and Em ran toward the riverbank. Bullets sliced through the trees. The flash drive was gone, but Nia still had her voice. She still had the truth. And now she had a name. Her grandfather, Pastor Harold Mason, alive and leading the final hunt. As they reached the shoreline, a small motorboat waited. A woman inside waved them in. They jumped aboard as Janice fired one last shot, then sprinted toward the boat under heavy fire. The boat peeled away just as a bullet smashed the rear light. Nia collapsed onto the floor, trembling, soaked, breathless. And somewhere in the fog behind them, a figure stepped onto the shore. Pastor Mason, smiling, eyes locked on his granddaughter. He raised a phone, dialed a number, and whispered, "It's time for the reckoning." The boat cut through the fog like a ghost, its small engine churning quietly across the black waters of Lake Waller. Nia huddled beside her mother, one arm locked around Janice's waist, the other clutched tightly to Em's jacket. No one spoke, not for a while. The woman steering the boat, Em's contact, said nothing, just kept her eyes on the moonlit channel ahead. Her face was hard, older, scarred. Whoever she was, she had seen things. Nia finally broke the silence. That man on the shore. Em nodded before she could finish. Harold Mason, he confirmed. Your grandfather. I don't understand, she whispered. Why? Why would any of them do this? Em leaned forward, his voice low. He started New Vine as a cover. In the 80s. Claimed it was a healing church for broken girls. Behind the sermons was a grooming machine. Hart, Rawls, your uncle, they were all disciples. Mason taught them how to pick victims, how to hide it, how to survive exposure. When people got too close, they were discredited or disappeared. Janice shook her head. He held you as a baby, she whispered to Nia. I'll let that man pray over you. I'll let him bless our home. Nia looked down at her hands. And I let Hart touch me, because I believed he was holy. The woman steering spoke up, her voice gravelly. They always hide behind holiness. That's the playbook. They reached the far shore, deep woods that stretched out toward the state line. No houses, no roads, no cameras. A safe house waited half a mile in. They walked in silence, their shoes crunching over pine needles and cold dirt. A single cabin stood at the top of the slope, lights off, windows blacked out. Inside there was power, a laptop, signal jammers, backup copies of everything Nia had leaked, and more. And pulled out the drive she'd given him. There's one final broadcast, he said. This time it won't just go to the public. It'll go to every law enforcement database, every private investigator group, every church accountability board in the country. We're going to name the names. Every name, no redactions. But what if they come for us again? Nia asked. Janice laid a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Then we keep running. Em stared at the laptop screen, then at Nia. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. I can post it for you. Keep your name out of it. Nia thought of all the girls in the flash drives. Melissa, the choir girl from the first video. The ones who never got to speak. She shook her head. No, I want them to know my name. And she typed it. Nia Caldwell. Survivor. Truth teller. Witness. Then she hit send. The upload bar appeared. A final file. The largest yet. Footage of Mason teaching Hart. Training him. Laughing. A paper trail of money flowing from church accounts into retreat centers that didn't exist. A full list of over 40 girls, confirmed victims. 4 were missing. 3 had died. The site confirmed delivery to over 1,000 watchdog organizations. Then the message popped up. Broadcast complete. It was done. There was no one doing it. The machine was broken. The names were out. The lies had cracked open and poured into the light. The world couldn't look away now. 3 days later, arrest warrants were issued for 5 high-ranking clergy across 3 states. 2 turned themselves in. 1 tried to flee the country and was caught. 1 vanished entirely. And the 5th, Pastor Harold Mason, went on live video through a hidden channel. He didn't apologize, didn't deny it either. He smiled at the camera. "They'll come for me," he said. "But truth isn't justice. Truth without power is just noise. And this family has always belonged to me." The video ended with coordinates, an invitation, a challenge. The FBI swarmed Crest Hill. New Vine was closed permanently. Its assets frozen, its members scattered. Nia and Janice were taken into protective custody under new identities. But Nia refused to disappear completely. She began speaking at universities under the name Ari Wells, telling her story in rooms filled with victims, skeptics, and silent watchers. M never gave his real name, but he always showed up in the back row. Every time. One night, after a packed event in Chicago, Nia received a package with no return address. Inside was a USB drive, 1 video, security footage, from a monastery in Guatemala. A hooded man in red walked through the courtyard, surrounded by acolytes. The man turned slightly and smiled. Her grandfather, still alive, still watching. And just before the clip ended, the camera glitched, replaced by a message. "This isn't over. M." Nia closed the laptop and looked out the window. She didn't feel scared anymore. She felt ready. The fire was still burning. And now, she was the match.